Good morning, everyone. I'm Bhavna from IndiaIT360, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to today's exclusive session titled Empower Your Business with Kaspersky Technologies Redefine Your Customer Protection. First of all, thank you all for taking your time and joining this webinar. What we promise to be highly insightful session focused on transforming cybersecurity from necessity into a powerful business advantage. Before we begin, a quick note. To make your engagement with India IT 360 even more seamless, we invite you to download the IT 360 Connect app. It's designed for exclusive IT leaders like you to expand your network, access curated opportunity, and get priority access to upcoming events. The download link has been shared in your chat box. So today's session is especially relevant in the time where cybersecurity is no longer just about protection. It's about enabling growth, accelerating go-to-market strategies, and building differentiated offerings. So we'll explore how businesses can integrate advanced threat intelligence into their solution, leverage OEM while labeling and bundling models, use AI-powered tools to improve efficiency, and create scalable high-margin revenue streams. So we have our speakers. We are delighted to have with us two distinguished experts from Kaspersky, Mr. Jeremy Carlson. He's the global account manager at Kaspersky. Jeremy brings deep global experience in helping organizations build strategic partnership and scale cybersecurity-driven business model. And Mr. Arun Gantiar, head of pre-sales at Kaspersky. Arun is a seasoned expert in cybersecurity solution and pre-sales strategy with extensive experience in helping enterprises integrate robust security into their ecosystem. We are truly honored to have you both with us today. Thank you for joining us. Before we move forward, here are a couple of quick pointers. We will Q&A sessions toward the end of the webinar. So feel free to drop your question in the chat box and we'll take the question as and when it comes after the session. We'll try to address as many as possible. We'll also be running 3 live polls during the session, so do participate actively. 4 lucky winners will win gift voucher worth rupees 2,000 each through the polls. Additionally, 1 lucky winner from Q&A segment will win rupees 2,000 voucher. So stay with us till the end and make the most of the session. So now, with us, let's dive into this session. I will now like to invite Mr. Jeremy Carlson and Mr. Arun Gantial to take us through today's presentation and share that insight. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate everyone tuning in. So as Bhavna mentioned, we're here to talk to you a bit about empowering your business with Kaspersky technologies and redefining your customers' protections with that technology. So let me kind of walk you through sort of our storyline for today. First, let me give you a little bit of a background on what Technology Alliances is at Kaspersky. So Technology Alliances at Kaspersky is kind of one of the foundational pillars of the company. We are the division that basically works to OEM our technologies into other folks' products and services. On the left, you can see some of our global partners. And we have many more than that, about 140, as you can see from the stats there. But our idea is, we're basically that one-stop shop for you to come get cybersecurity technology. I know a lot of you think of us as an endpoint solution, but it's so much more than that, and we'll get into that today. Integrating our technologies is actually quite easy. We have a whole bunch of different options for you, from software developer kits to services to APIs. So we'll walk through all of that in some detail. But Kaspersky, with more than 25 years of industry knowledge, we really are one of the top 3, if not the top leader in the space, and excited to show you what we can really do and how we can help you improve your own products and services. So with that, let me kind of jump into a little bit about Kaspersky's portfolio and just how we see this working with our partners. So as I mentioned, a lot of you think of us as endpoint, and that's definitely correct, and we are a leader in that space. But I don't think many of our partners or prospective partners out there realize Kaspersky empowers all kinds of products and services. So I wanted to show this wheel here and kind of let you walk yourself around the dots there from the network security all the way to the email security. There's something for everyone, right? We touch literally every single aspect of it. And what we're doing here with Technology Alliances is allowing you to take our core technology and use it as a builder. So build with us your solutions through these different opportunities, right? So from even data security or maybe something you weren't thinking we'd be part of, like DevSecOps, all of that is possible with us. So excited to kind of walk you through that and show you. We have probably over sorry 300 technology partnerships across the globe. So we have several different business models to take advantage of this. The first, I've talked a bit about the OEMs, the SDK type of integrations you might think of, things like APIs, but we have a lot of other options as well. Think when you take our threat intelligence and you bring it into your own environment, you can white label that, brand it as your own, and make it part of your own service. So this can help you potentially gain footholds in new markets but without really any extra development or compatibility hassles, right? Because it's an API. But we also do things like bundle, soft bundle. Like we have partners who are taking our next gen firewall feeds for third-party vendors and bringing those in and incorporating them into provide additional security. As you know, people really find Kaspersky's threat intelligence to be unique and very diverse. And so it can be a very powerful option for you to bundle with existing products and services. And then the final piece is that we have the ability to certify your products with ours, right? So maybe you have something you've built and you'd like to see it work with Kaspersky in some type of technology integration. We have that option for you as well. But what I really want to talk about today and why we're doing this here in India is we are really putting a lot of investment into the Indian market. We see a lot of growth there. And personally, now having spent some time in the area and coming and working there, what I've seen reminds me a lot of the early days of Silicon Valley. There is just so much momentum. There's so much excitement there. And so Kaspersky's really doubled down on that opportunity, right? And so what we've done is we've opened 3 offices. We are bringing data centers into the country. We'll have data services there. We have researchers there. We have tripled our sales force there. We're going into 2-tier cities. So our investment is substantial, and our intention is to be the leader of cybersecurity in the Indian market. So with this opportunity is why we're here to talk to you today, right? So it's not just from an enterprise perspective, but from enabling partners in the geography to take our products to market. And I think that's kind of the big piece of the story today is really how do you take our technology, our services, our products, our APIs, and bundle them or build them into your own products and services? Because one thing that's clear is we're seeing that need to help our regional partners use their own local products to service the market, right? So no need to reinvent the wheel, but you can use our engine in your vehicle and go to market that way. So a bit about the threat landscape, though, that we're seeing, right? And so this is kind of interesting. India has some really unique threat profiles, right? We're seeing a tremendous amount of kind of web threats. That's something that is common kind of across the globe, but the volume of it is substantial. And I think that's the story of India is everything at scale, right? Everything is just so much larger, so much more volume that you really have to be able to handle the scale on these things. We see a huge increase in password stealers over the course of the last year. So we have our great team, right? Our researchers that are from around the globe, keeping statistics on each different area. And their thoughts on India were really around the growth of password stealers, the volume of the RDP attacks that we're seeing, right? We're seeing a lot of stuff against desktops and their protocol. And then massive increase in spyware, right? And I think that's where we're going to get touch on a lot today is sort of the increase in spyware and the fraud and sort of what's really happening on the ground level in India. And that's why we brought Arun with us as well. You know, as head of pre-sales, he has some unique insight into what the customers are experiencing. And I think he can bring some of that flavor to today's presentation for us. So let me talk though a little bit about these top three areas. So before this webinar, Arun and I sat down and I was like, what would you say are the three biggest challenges you face? You know, as the head of our pre-sales organization, you know, you're in hundreds of accounts, you're talking to some of the largest government agencies, some of the largest enterprises in the country. What are you up against? And you know, there's really three areas that kind of came out of this forum, right? And so the first area was really around DPDP, and I'm sure many of you know this, and we'll get into it in a bit here, obviously. But this whole idea of regulatory compliance, it's not new. It's a global phenomena. I think India is just coming to the game now a little bit on this, but really doing it right and doing it with a set of intention. So we can talk a little bit about how Kaspersky can help with DPDP. Um, the other thing is, and this just wouldn't be a webinar in 2026 without talking about artificial intelligence, right? And sort of how are we helping with that, and what does that mean from a security perspective? So we'll touch on that as well. And then really, you know, what is kind of going on around mobile, right? So if you look at India as a country, it is truly a mobile first environment. It's a place where almost everyone has a smartphone at this point, but not so much a laptop, right? And so everything is really gone mobile first. And for Kaspersky, that's not new. We see that across the globe, of course. You know, this is a global phenomenon. And so what we're really doing is leaning into that type of security, but more so in the aspect of helping our partners build to that technology, right? So that's what we're really looking to try to do here is help our partners figure out, you know, what products and solutions from Kaspersky offer our partners the ability to sort of build with us, right? To create these products and services. So let's jump into the DPDP topic. But as we do, I'm going to pause because, as mentioned, we have some polls, and we'd really like to get your feedback on those polls and understand your thoughts as well. So please, Bavara, go ahead and if you
Sure.
can, run the poll.
Let me share that. So here it goes. Yeah. How confident are you in your organization's ability to comply with India's DPDP Act by the deadline? First is very confident, we are well prepared. Somewhat confident, most requirements are covered. Not confident, significant gaps remains. Not sure, waiting for the final rules. You have 10 more seconds to go. Yep. Three, two, one. So here I'm going to end the poll. Yep. So yeah, we have got, I think 44% we have got somewhat confident, most requirements are covered. 31% are saying very confident, we are well prepared. 19% not confident, significant gaps remain, and 6% not sure, waiting for the final rules. Yeah.
Wow, fascinating. Yeah, thank you for that. That's really interesting. Yeah, so I think you know, with things like compliance and data sovereignty, being somewhat confident is kind of the right approach, right? Because the legislation is intentionally sometimes left a little vague. Not so much to cause complexity, but more to allow for new concepts and shifting dynamics, like how things like AI are really changing the landscape for everything. So definitely can understand that. And you know, if we look at it, the vast majority, 70% are somewhat or below confident, right? So I think that's a great way to kind of segue into talking about this and how Kaspersky can help here. So let me talk a little bit about this. So the problem is, right, this Digital Personal Data Protection Act is necessitating local data handling for personally identifiable information, right? And so you can't just bring some cloud solution from somewhere else in the world and say, hey, this is going to work, right? And the reason is that there's so much PII that kind of floats around in those types of services, right? And so today, what we're really talking about is products and services and things from Kaspersky that you can bring into your own local solutions. And that really, to me, is the essence of this way to get around the DPDP, but leverage global technology, right? So rather than just taking a whole product and maybe skinning the user interface, what we're really talking about here is building with us and bringing our intelligence and engines into the local products. And what that does additionally is it qualifies for MII, right? For the Make in India concepts, right? So, things like our SDK and our threat intelligence APIs, those definitely are less than, or, are less than 50%, meaning that the vast majority of the product will be made in India. So that's kind of an exciting concept when you really think about it. You're solving DPDP while also achieving MII. So let me talk a little, or let me hand it over to Arun to talk about our solutions in that space. Arun, please.
Thanks, Jeremy, and welcome everyone. So basically, like we have three solutions to offer, which you can work on it with. First thing is software development kit. So this is unlike it can be the use cases when we talk about the use cases, it can be used at a endpoint level if you are developing any router or if you are in email gateway or if you're also developing any multi-level architecture where you want to scan any files that also can be used with our SDK. And this comes with a C, C++ libraries actually with a .NET wrapper. And when we talk about the hardware, it supports Intel ARM based architecture, Intel both x86 and x64. And when we talk about the operating system, both Windows desktop, it can also support Windows servers and Linux kernel 2.4x onward kernels and also FreeBSD Linux. So it is like means versatility is more. So if you are developing something, then it can be catered to your multiple customers who are using a different architecture or cross operating system also. Then when it comes to APIs, like means we have multiple API feeds. Like you can query, for example, if you want to query anything and across threat intelligence, like means if you want to look up for a domain, for a hash or IP, or if any FQDN also, on a real time, if you want to query our APIs, it is available. And for example, if you want to execute any samples, malicious samples, suspicious samples, you want to execute in a sandbox, that also can be achieved with our API. And of course, there are solutions like means we can get you the skeleton of the product and you can completely white label our solution on an endpoint side. And you can, of course, like means add on your logo, you can rebrand it. Those things also can be done with the white labeling solutions. Uh, Jeremy, can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So with the SDK, we have one of the largest government agency is using our SDK, like which is part of the solution where our SDK is used. And what are the technologies it can protect? Like means when we talk about the software development kit, it can give you, of course, the signature-based protection at a high level. Then it also supports a multi-layered architecture, which means not only the signature-based, but also machine learning. It can also do a little bit of emulation, and it can also leverage Kaspersky Security Network, which is a global framework where you can get the IP and URL reputation on the go. So that advanced protection also can be integrated with the SDK. And our APIs, like which I was talking about, the thread data feeds or even Suricata feeds also can be integrated into the, if you're into developing any solutions where it requires any IP reputations or URL reputation or hash reputation, or even the Suricata, or it can be converted to Snot also, like means those APIs also it can be converted and you can query on a real time. That also is being offered, and it is integration can be tested. And then one of the large local MSSP also manage security service provider. They are also using our threat intelligence feeds to cater to their respective customers. So you consume our feeds and then you can deliver to your customers also by integrating your own maybe SIM or threat intelligence platform. These are the three aspects, like with successful use cases, what we have done in India. And to talk about the API, to talk about more about the threat intelligence aspect of it, because we are moving not only the signature-based protection, but also it would require a real-time solution uh, where you can execute anything in a sandbox environment, or you can query the reputation also. Can we move to the next slide, Jennifer, please? So these are the aspects like when search engines portal, almost all features, all the icons which is mentioned, like be it threat data feed or threat lookup, threat analysis, even digital footprint intelligence. If you want to query anything on the dark web, or if you want to get any reporting also, we by the way we have crimeware intelligence reporting, APD intelligence reporting, and ICE threat intelligence reporting also. All those things can be queried, and also it can be integrated into, if you're uh, developing any firewall, so it can be integrated into your firewall solutions also. And it is quite easy. It is REST like API. Jeremy, can we move to the next slide? So horizontally, if you see all the icons, like means threat analysis API, starting from threat analysis, which can be like you can execute a sample, and not only the execution, but if you want to get a detail about the what is the attribution of the sample, like means, whether the file is being uh, part of any campaign, or whether the multiple APT groups are behind the campaign, like behind the file, creating the file. We can get into see into the code level, and then we can get the details of the file actually, and we can attribute, and we can also see the similarities. For example, if X APT group is trying to do, and what is their modus operandi, and what are the vulnerabilities they exploit, what are the IOCs they use, all those details also can be delivered from actor profiles. So it is a composite of threat intelligence actually. Like means you get first you can query to the threat lookup. Of course, IP, URL, hash, domain, you can query with API. Then if you want to execute some file, like means if it is a suspicious file and you want to execute, or maybe the reputation of the file is low and you want to execute, then you can do it in threat analysis. Then if you want to search, like means when if you're a managed service provider, managed security service provider, basically, then if you want to have more information about the file, then you can always get into, like means if any file or has, you want to check it in the dark web also. So those things also can be done with digital footprint intelligence API. There also you can execute. And once you zeroed on that this particular attack has happened by so and so actor, maybe a Lazarus or Blue Noro or NotPetya, any actor profile is there, then you can also get it in get it through the actor profile, where you can get complete detail about the actor. When I say actor, complete detail of the actor, it will be what is their modus operandi, what are the IOCs they use, which IP address they use, what vulnerabilities they exploit, and whether they have any affiliation, or whether it is they are part of a ransomware as a service campaign. Entire detail you can get with that. And of course, like in threat infrastructure tracking APIs are there, and so basically, you can query a lot of things in an advanced stage, and this will be helping you when you are doing a uh, investigation. So trials and monitoring can be done with threat lookup. Then you can also like means go ahead with investigation at a SOC level, level 3 analyst level. These are the things like which you can take you can benefit it from. Then there is a use case for NGFW. I would request like Jeremy to uh, share more light on that. Over to you,
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Yeah. Thank you, Arun. Yeah. And so just to be clear, everything that you see there on the top is actually, this is an actual screenshot from our threat intelligence portal. And they actually have APIs now for every single one of the products we offer in there. So you can basically create your own web interface and then bring this capability into that web interface. And so, and it goes beyond that. Let me give an example here, actually, of a next gen firewall vendor that I'm working with in Taiwan. So this is really interesting. This vendor makes a premier next gen firewall. They basically needed to add IPS rules to it. And if you've ever dealt with IPS rules, they're quite cumbersome, right? So, typically people want you to run tens of thousands of rules to catch everything, right? But the reality is that's just not possible. The performance on the device itself starts to bog, right? So the challenge, if you will, of how to make this work is really how do you bring IPS signatures in a tailored way to a device that kind of ranges in size and performance, right? So how do you bring that level of accuracy and kind of right size the signature set? So this 3,000 person company came to us looking at our Suricata feeds to add to it. And basically, what they were really looking for was a streamlined rule set that actually had high fidelity, right? And I think in security, fidelity is everything, right? Especially at a firewall where you're not making you're not watching something happen, you're making a decision on the fly. Like you have to make a yes, no decision in real time, right? And that can be quite challenging. And fidelity is everything in those pieces, right? So that was really the challenge was, they're looking at their appliance line. They're looking at IPS signatures that they can get from different providers globally. And they came to us and said, what does your IPS rule set look like? We worked through it and they were like, this is amazing, right? So the solution they came back with was like, hey, your IPS rule set has just the right size of signatures, has just the right size of rules. It's not bogging our machine down, but more importantly, your fidelity is amazing. So the things that you're catching for us and our customers has really changed the game for us. So while they're busy making some of the fastest, most powerful kind of firewalls on the market, Kaspersky came along and complemented that with our world-class detection and high fidelity rule set in our Suricata rules. And so the results spoke for themselves. They're a very loyal partner now of ours and have been for some time. They always score high in the detection rates. They have one of the fastest firewalls on the market. And they really don't get any complaints about false positives or false negatives, right? The fidelity has really kind of been the big thing for them. So I think if there, was any use case to kind of show how our threat intelligence can be brought not just through an API, but even brought all the way down to a local network and then redistributed via that partner's network as signature updates to their device. So this is a really classic case study in sort of how to leverage Kaspersky technology, particularly threat intelligence, and help qualify for things like Make in India. In this case, they had kind of similar legislation, as well as really solving for DPDP because if you looked at this, if this firewall was made in India, 99% of the componentry then would be Indian sourced, made, and constructed or assembled, right? The only thing coming third party here is really our signature set. So I'm going to pause here as we move into AI. Let's run another poll because I'd really love to get some information as we head into this to help frame the conversation. So Bhavna, please.
Sure. So here we are with our second poll. And yes. So, what is your top AI security concern for the next 12, 18 months? Employees, the first one is employees leaking data to public AI tools, AI generated phishing and deepfake targeting our organization, vulnerabilities in AI model or their discrepancies, lack of visibility into their AI tools are being used internally. Is it visible, the poll? I think it's not. Just a second.
I don't see it yet. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Okay, let
Yeah,
me
not
just
correct.
watch it. Yeah. Okay, now
There it
I
is.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll read it again. What is your top AI security concern for the next 12, 18 months? Please reply to our poll since we'll have four winners from these polls. I can see we have like 10 more seconds to go from here onwards. Okay. Three, two, one. And I'm going to end the poll. Thank you so much for your responses. So I have the results. So the maximum that we have got is on AI generated phishing and deepfake targeting. Our organization has got 39%. Then we have employees leaking data to public AI tools is on 33%. Then we have lack of visibility into which AI tools are being used internally is on 17%. Vulnerabilities in AI model or their dependencies is on 11%. Thank you everyone for this poll answers.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's fascinating information actually. For me. Oh, sorry, I lost the slide, but the poll, but the that's really interesting to hear kind of that from the audience. So, this year, just recently, the RSA conference in San Francisco happened, and if last year's conference theme was AI, this year's was agentic AI, right? And since a lot of those folks are developers, the conversations were really around that bottom 17%, like developing AI tools, we're worried about that, right? But I think in reality, it's more what everyone responded here, which is like using the AI tools and the issues that come with that and the lack of visibility into that. And so I think there's a huge opportunity to create products that kind of do that, right? And so one of the big themes, though, that's kind of been appearing out of AI, it's really kind of a three-pronged issue, and it's really the same issue that we've seen sort of across the board in general from cybersecurity for forever, right? So AI isn't something that in and of itself is necessarily a security game changer. It's really more taking existing problems and exacerbating them. And so if we look at those poll results, the 17% was really about building AI tools. Well, yeah, AI governance is important and building the tools safely is important, but almost all of us are really more worried about kind of using them and the issues that come with that and the privacy and all the typical concerns that sort of come out of that. And those are just our normal concerns with using anything. And in fact, I'm old enough to remember when SaaS was the big thing, right? Security as a service, and using the cloud was concerns, right? And so I feel a lot of that similar kind of momentum happening here. So everything's still the same. It's just moving at agentic speed, right? So if we look at sort of this concept across, what do we have from Kaspersky for products that help, really on the developer side, we have products like our scan engine, which we'll do a deep dive into in a minute, or our SDK that can look at the files as the developers are building and can make sure they're using safer stuff there. And that's definitely like a piece of the poll and concern. So if you're looking to build stuff and you want to check things like pickle files for malicious code, because a pickle file, when uploaded into an AI engine, the AI engine can autonomously execute things in there, right? It's designed to do that. So if you were going to poison someone's AI build, it's a great way to do it. And thinking of that concept, it kind of dovetails right into the concept of supply chain, right? And so what do we do for supply chain? And our threat intelligence feeds actually comprise a couple different feeds that help with supply chain. We have a vulnerability feed, and we have an open source feed. And both of them are designed to make sure you're not using kind of malicious open source content or content that has known exploited vulnerabilities in it, right? So if you're grabbing code from a repository and you want to ensure that you're getting the right version, it's not type squatted or something funky like that, both of these feeds are ideal for your development environment. But I think what's really going to be compelling here, and really this third use case, is just business as usual, right? And so now you can imagine every day files are flying around our networks, right? Back and forth, users, external people, internal to the company. So north, south, east, west traffic, files are flying everywhere. But now it's going to happen at agentic speed and kind of autonomously, right? That's what's going to happen with agents. And so the need for network-based file inspection, especially on segments of the network where traditionally you probably weren't necessarily looking at this. Even web applications like having a website where users can upload files or download files from you, soon agents will be doing that, right? And so it's more important than ever to inspect all of those files. So, and this is just your normal PDFs and things, right? This isn't pickle files and all the stuff the developers are scanning. This is just literally the day-to-day stuff, but happening at agentic speed, right? And so how do we kind of harden that AI lifecycle? So with that, I'm going to give you a couple use cases that we're starting to see develop, right? So the first really was these developers of AI apps. They've been coming to us and they're saying, "Look, I'm really nervous about what we're putting into the back end for training data. We're just getting random sets of files and uploading them. How do we ensure that this is not something malicious that's kind of spiking our internal infrastructure, right?" And so we've adapted our product scan engine, which Arun's going to go into a deep dive here next. But we've adapted it to look at these file types, like the pickles and all the rest of these types of files, to do this, to ensure that it's there. So beyond just our open source threat feeds and things like that that are helping you pick the right code to work with, we're also making sure that code is not malicious. And in fact, because Scan Engine is more than just a signature set, right? It runs heuristics. It does a static binary analysis of the file before making a decision on it. And that type of activity is fantastic for a CI/CD pipeline scenario, right? Where you're checking every build before it goes live. Just run it through the scan engine. It costs next to nothing to do. It'll immediately scan that whole file for any kind of malicious content and give you peace of mind as you go live with those builds as part of your CI/CD pipeline. The second one is it's a giant vendor, right? This IT vendor is a builder of AI infrastructure across all kinds of different things, from automobiles to refrigerators to cybersecurity services, right? They're one of those kind of IT giants, right? And they're looking at different ways that they have to secure their CI/CD pipeline. And in addition to Scan Engine and open source threat feeds, they're using things like our container security, right? Because Scan Engine can be a Docker image, so it's great for hosting in the cloud, and same with our container security. And so these become kind of cornerstones of their build process on their CI/CD pipeline for their AI. And then you start leveraging things like the rest of our threat intelligence, and you really make sure that the AI they're building, supplying, and partnering with is secure and free from any kind of poisoning from that side, right? But then, of course, the final piece is what we're starting to see all of our customers looking at, our enterprise customers. And I think this is a huge business opportunity for partners to make a service out of our scan engine. But they're coming and saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm losing visibility into my files. There's so many new ways my files are being accessed agentically. I never realized AI agents would be grabbing these tools remotely and autonomously and distributing information from them." So if you have like cloud storage, or you have a website where people are uploading or downloading files, or your customers do, this is a critical time to work with something like Scan Engine to ensure that those files remain secure and aren't you're not only ingesting malware but potentially distributing malware. If you look at something like an AWS S3 bucket, there is absolutely no security checks on that stored data, right? And if you think about a desktop antivirus application sitting on a web server, it never sees these files because they're part of an application and they're just being processed and sent to a storage like an AWS S3. So putting desktop antivirus on the web server, while valuable for the server itself, it doesn't see these files because they don't really land on the desktop, if you will, right? And so this is just a technological facet of all antivirus or any endpoint protection platform, really. So the rise of agentic AI is really where things are headed, and having tools like Scan Engine in the process are critical. And the thing about Scan Engine is it's ultra fast, right? It's basically our antivirus SDK, which is basically the insides of our endpoint agent, designed as a network appliance, right? So it's a Docker containerized image. And so it's doing tremendous throughput. It's doing 1,000 files a minute when, on typical hardware, right? So this is not some slow kind of sandboxing thing. Think of this as like a very high speed, low late, low latency file scanner. Please go ahead, Arun.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for covering that for me. Basically scan engine Jeremy already told that it's a virtual appliance can be used and it can be connected with HTTP or ICAP protocol. It can scan virtually. It can scan any storage, whichever solution is being supporting HTTP or ICAP mode. It can be used. And same thing for the SDK, the technologies are the same. It can do a signature base. It can do a heuristic scanning. It can do uh, of course, Kaspersky security network is there. It can do a little bit of emulation and machine learning based detection also it can do. And any file, if any malicious phishing or advertising URLs has to be blocked, then it can do that. And of course, of late, we have also introduced LLM models. It can detect malicious functionality if anything is there inside any file which is getting uploaded. Then scan engine can detect that. It is pretty simple, easy to install, easy to integrate, and because it is already all the packages and of the self protection will be there. With a very intuitive graphical interface, Jimmy, can we move to the next slide, please? So this is how it looks once it is integrated any file, the audit based also means what are the changes has happened, the admin users, if anyone has done, then that also we can see. And we can also see what exactly, if any detection has happened in our next slide. Uh, this is showing what is the administrative work has gone through, then we can also see the scan result in our next slide. Jeremy, can we move to the next
Yep.
slide, please? Yeah.
Sorry, here, just a little technical difficulty. There we go.
Yeah. So here it can say before it is this can be also used on containerized environment. If it is so any front end application when it is storing the data in the storage, in S3 also it can scan and it can get a verdict, and if it is a malicious file is found, then it can put it in a different bucket altogether. And through the web, we can see what are the verdicts of the file. And these are the a few eCar files we have tested just to make you comfortable and understand how the web interface will look like. And very small settings which can be done. We'll move to the next slide, Jeremy.
Yep.
So HTTP node, if it is done in HTTP or ICAP, depending on that, settings will be there, and few of the settings to customize, and it can scale horizontally also, if you want to have more output, if the transmission rates is high, then it can scale, and it can scale horizontally. We can create clusters, and uh, can be managed from a single dashboard. So these are the things when it runs in a cluster, normally we suggest n+1, whichever how many instances are there +1 to balance it out, and we can also see the health checkup how whether it is working fine or not, and storage node, all the settings are apt or not. So this is
Awesome.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Arun.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. The essence of my saying is means very simple, intuitive, ready to install. Most of the protocols means most of the solutions, security solutions which are available, almost it supports ICAP protocol or HTTP mode also it can be used. So if you're using any reverse proxy, squid proxy, or any mail client, if you're using mail proxy, email gateways also, or firewalls, it can get integrated. Any WAF, most of the WAFs it is supported. So it can integrate in that, or in during your like means integration step also it can be used. And of course, the open source threat intelligence feeds Jeremy has covered. So there's a use
Yeah,
case which
Arun, I would add also that it has a native connector now for AWS S3, right?
yeah,
We wrote a
yeah,
connector as well. Yeah.
yes. Thanks for that, Jeremy. And we have a use case like in which Jeremy will be covering.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, thank you for that, Arun, and kind of building on that demonstration of the product and how easy it is to set up. We had the Canadian government come to us and actually say, look, I have a file scanning product that we've built called Assembly Line. And Assembly Line essentially is something where the different departments within the Canadian government can take this product and actually put it into their own networks for file scanning, or even use the one that the Canadian Cybersecurity Agency is hosting, right? The CSE. And so, they came to us and said, look, we need something that has, your unique signature set. We find it very valuable to our detection process. And we've got this issue where we have all these distributed government agencies, and every single one of them every day is like, hey, what's in this file? Hey, what's in this file? And sometimes you can handle that as a onesie twosie sort of thing. And it does check beyond the files. It checks the URLs in them and all of that, right? So we're doing all of the checks on it. And so they said to their agencies, look, you can use our hosted assembly line, or you can take your own version of assembly line and run it locally, right? And so the solution was really this concept where the scan engine, because it's just software, can be deployed virtually anywhere an assembly line instance was spun up. And since these were kind of a cloud-based Docker image, Scan Engine works sort of like a service with that as well, right? So it can work like a kind of a Lambda service for it. And since it is a Docker image and containerized, it's elastic, meaning you can scale its capacity up or down as you need to within your compute environment, right? So the result was the agency creating this really well loved, and kind of, you can Google this assembly line and understand sort of how much they use it throughout the Canadian government. But this really well loved high end inspection engine service or appliance, depending on how you wanted to use it, opportunity, right? And so that's what we're seeing here with the Canadian government. So we have one last section. It's really around fraud and mobile. And in fact, it was interesting to see on the AI poll that fraud was a kind of important component of that. And AI and mobile do go hand in hand. So I'll let Bavar do our last poll here as regards to mobile, but I think it will shine on our AI poll results as well.
Sure, Jeremy. Yeah. So here we go. So our third poll, yes, here it is. Which type of fraud has impacted your organization the most in the past 12 months? Payment transaction fraud, account takeover, phishing and social engineering, synthetic and identity fraud. We are getting a lot of responses. 10 more seconds to go. Okay. So we are ending the poll here. Here we go. Okay. So we have got 63% in phishing and social engineering, and 26% on payment and transaction fraud, 11% on synthetic identity fraud, and no one has taken this poll on account takeover. So no response on that. Okay, over to you.
Yeah, that's fascinating to see. I mean, I think really this has been a constant theme throughout the webinar today. And thank you all so much for participating in this, because it really makes this more interactive. I mean, as you can tell, this is a live thing. I'm coughing throughout it, so very real. But it's just so good to see this. So the phishing and social engineering to me is kind of the reoccurring theme. And that was the same with the AI. And I think that's really what's going on in India at a high level. And that phishing and social engineering is actually a product of payment transaction kind of fraud too, right? So like it's are we phishing for someone's banking credentials to then defraud them in that way, right? So So let me step into this a little bit, right? I think a lot of people, when they think about mobile security, especially like companies developing mobile apps, they think about application security. And absolutely you should, that's absolutely part of the story, application security. Can I SQL inject this app, or can I jailbreak this app, or what can I do to this app? Well, all of that is well and good, but I think the bigger issue that gets overlooked here, and I have a strong background in mobile and mobile app security, is that the device integrity actually is paramount over the app security. Because the real thing that's happening is not someone SQL injecting your app, it's somebody with the malicious app on their phone that is screenshotting them logging into the banking app, right? Or it's a jailbroken device that's got, no ability to control what's happening on it, right? And so that's what's really going on here is this kind of problem of the device needs to be secured first. And our mobile SDK is really focused on that concept. But that's only one of several products that we have, and I'll get into that. But if you really look at our kind of top industry segments, I use the bank as kind of the first one because it's an easy thing for us all to put our minds around. But you got to believe there's apps everywhere like this, right? Governments are creating nationwide apps for government agencies and services. We're seeing mobile operators with their own apps. That's really common now. And often these have monetization capabilities for the provider. And so, adding security functionality is a great way to differentiate or increase your ARPU or kind of reduce churn. A big one that we're seeing a lot of is insurance companies wanting to offer cyber insurance to their customers and wanting to make sure that their devices are secure. Because you can offer someone cyber insurance and say your app is secure, but again, if their device is compromised, then they're compromised, and they might not even realize their device is compromised. We have cybersecurity vendors in India building with us. One of our good friends at Protect AI is building tools with us internally. So really exciting to see what they're doing and coming forward with. They're definitely doing that to help achieve things like Make in India and DPDP, so that the vast majority of their product and everything around it is made and built in India and retains in India. Retail and loyalty programs, we have vendors that do a lot of this. You can imagine your gas app or something like that. We see a lot of gaming platform apps that have gaming fraud on them. And the mobile SDK and our fraud detection platforms help with this. And then, of course, education has apps for everything, right? And so I'll let Arun kind of take over here and explain these three products and how they sort of fit this whole concept. But I think what you'll find is they are very much in line with those two themes of phishing and fraud at the account level.
Thanks, Jimmy. So, first of all, like means when we talk about mobile app, like means application security, it can be inbuilt. It can be it also comes as an SDK, and which can be integrated with your applications. And this will be as the use cases which Jeremy has mentioned. It can be integrated in your application, and if you are running any loyalty program, or if you are running any gaming applications, so it can understand the fraud related to that also. So of late, very recently, there was a fraud like means in one of the company from Delhi, if I'm not wrong. Then the internal employee has created a coupon code which can give 100% discount. And he has shared that coupon code with his friends, and it was there in public news actually. So what exactly happens? Like means whenever there is internal fraud, of course it is there, and also there is external fraud. Like means, for example, if any gaming company is there where real money is involved, like means casino or maybe a poker game, what exactly happens is multiple players can play for on the same table, and also teams means they can scrap, they can understand like means the opponent's other team member of the table, like means what cards they are holding. So those type of frauds are there. And of course, this is digital arrest. Like means in India, it is a pinnacle actually. It means digital arrest schemes are happening, and while on the call, uh, the attacker or the adversary can convince them to execute any remote applications. where they can take remote control of the mobile, and they can understand, like means if anything in transaction, what is happening, they can understand what are the, if any OTP is there, those things also they can collect. So the application, the mobile security application, it has the capability to understand when you are on a call, if any applications, if any remote call, remote application is getting executed, that also it can understand. It can also, with caller ID integration, it can also understand. It is similar to where if it is a registered user or if it is a or not registered, non-registered users, that also it can identify. And holistically, it can reduce the fraud. If any, if your organization or if your clients are facing any challenges with the fraud, any fraud, any digital fraud, we can do, like this mobile as SDK is one part. We also use APIs for the web applications also. So holistically, we can have the tags and we can set a parameter and to understand the fraud and to reduce the fraud also. And one of the use case, like maybe we'll move to the next slide, Jeremy.
Yeah. Hold on here. There we go.
Thank you. So mobile SDK, again, it is a C++ compiler, like means it can be used at the core, and it can help in reducing the attack surface, and it can also act as a part of the total, like means fraud prevention project. And this can be useful, like means if you're a financial organization, it can be integrated with your mobile SDKs also, like means mobile applications, whichever are being used, it can be packed inside that, and it can also reduce the fraud aspect of it. And various aspect is there. So when we talk about mobile SDK, it is not only the fraud, it can also, we believe in continuous authentication rather than two-factor authentication. So wherever the user pattern, what they are doing, the if it is a fingerprint enabled phone, then what is the lexically means the weight of the finger for the fingerprinting and the normal usage pattern of any users, those things also can be heavily customizable. It is not a off-the-shelf product, like means it can be customized, and we have a strong technology team to help you in that, like means customization also, like. It can be done, and this is not an off the shelf product. It can be built, and it is customizable to do that.
Yeah, probably worth mentioning. It works on iOS and Android, and
Yeah.
soon to be on Harmony as well. So, really addressing all the mobile platform options. And same with our SDK, working across Windows, Linux, and soon to be Mac OS as well.
Yeah.
I think we kind of covered this inadvertently in this slide here, but we can kind of talk about these use cases a little bit if you'd like, Arun. I know we're coming up on the end of the hour, but if you wouldn't mind touching on these three opportunities you've been working on.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the thing is like gaming company where we have worked, and they were means what I was telling, it is part of that POC project only, like means when while we are doing. So these are the challenges they were facing, like with multiple same player will be playing in the same table, and there will be one outsider and all rest of the players will be one player. And it can be also executed in a virtual environment, screen grabbing, scrapping, all those things were happening in that, and those are the challenges they were facing, and those challenges were mitigated with our Kaspersky fraud prevention, where the basic thing is like means Kaspersky SDK, mobile SDK, and that is how we could resist, because it was an online gaming platform and the money was real, like means of course tax and everything is there, but the money was real, and it was a very pinching story, like means pinching issue they wanted to address, and with our help, like means we could do that, we could achieve that. And yeah, this is about like Indian Cyber Protect AI, like means where uh, it works in their AI story, like means for the scanning the files, so and fraud, it is integrated into their solutions itself. uh, and the third one, like means this is not exactly the mobile SDK, but our scan engine, and together with mobile SDK also. What exactly happens, like means being BFSI segment or fintech or medical companies, pharma companies, what exactly? All the it is their application is public facing, and the users another use case also will be like means wherever they're exposing their support services, wherever the external user is able to upload any file samples, or maybe for KYC they can upload the files, but it may be possible that like the file is contained with malicious or macros are enabled in the file, and at the backend, like when the user is opening the file and advertently, unknowingly, the user exposes the organization to risk because he or she, the user is opening a malicious embedded file. Those things can be protected with scan engine at the entry level, like before the file goes to an internal employee, uh, it can be scanned and it can protect. So both way it can be possible. One scan engine at the server side we can do, or the Kaspersky mobile security SDK, which can be integrated into their application, your application. It can be integrated, and then while uploading the file itself, it gets scanned so that there is a clean, always will be a clean file which will be transferred to the central repository. So these are the three use cases which can be used to prevent the fraud, and also to ensure that like means any file which comes from an external world, because it is a public open portal, anyone can upload the files maybe for support or KYC purpose, but at the end when it reaches to your internal employee, then it is clean. So these are the aspects of use cases in what we have done, and multiple BFSI organizations in India are using Kaspersky scan engine to protect the this kind of setup.
Yeah, thank you, Arun. That's really important. I think, here's where the power of working with the company like Kaspersky that has this amalgamation of technology comes into play. We can really create these solutions, right? It's not like point product, point product. It's like multiple products working together to solve a complex problem. And if you look at things like iOS, there's not a lot that they let you do as a security vendor on the iOS platform. But one of the biggest issues is when files are uploaded from an iOS app, they can't be inspected local to the device like you can do on Android. And so you almost have to have a two-part solution, something on the device to ensure device integrity, but also something sitting at that app web server to look at those files as they come through. So the combination of things like Scan Engine and Mobile SDK working in unison, and then you add in a third product like our fraud prevention system or our Who Calls that does the caller identification, you start to really build out this complete storyline for your customers. They don't realize you have 5 point solutions working in unison. What they realize is they have a very safe gaming platform or a healthcare app that checks their files even on iOS, right? So I think that's kind of the story here. And in fact, kind of just to give you the last use case, we have a vendor, a cyber insurance company in Brazil, right? And just to give you a flavor, a software developer kit means that it's your application with our engine inside. And you can see the set of tiles here inside the Exia's app, and the top one being antivirus there on the left, right? And so that's really our engine inside surfacing through their user interface all the value that we have. And so some folks use all of the features we have, some folks use a couple of the features, but it really is up to you as the designer of the application what you want to surface and what's important to you. And there's just so much flexibility with this type of model. And of course, all of this goes back to DPDP and MII because this is your application living in your country using your databases so that you're compliant in every regard, right? So I know we're at kind of the top of the hour and we have a bunch of questions, it looks like, so I'd like to dive into those. So, just let me wrap it up here with first saying thank you so much for attending and listening to us. Hopefully you found this useful. I mean, really for us, we want to see you create ways to generate revenue with these opportunities while kind of ensuring compliance and protecting your customers through using our kind of global leading technology, right? So, for us, it's just really important that all those four boxes get checked for you as our alliance partner. So without further ado, I'm going to say thank you and Bavara to read us some questions, and Arun and I can kind of take these live.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Arun and Jeremy, for such an insightful session. And we have a lot of questions over here. I'll take one by one. Yeah. So,
Please.
I'm so sorry. Something happened. Just a second. Just a second. Okay, so this is the question. Mr. Hardeep Singh is asking, how does Kaspersky comply with data localization and residence requirements? Does it have a data center in India?
And we're working on that, actually. Go ahead, Arun. Maybe you kind of have the latest on that, or
Yeah, too early to say, but yeah, we are working on it. Like with in the opening of the slides, like that is what it is mentioned. So we are doubling, and we have focus is there to get that in India.
yeah, I think the key point is it's not so much about Kaspersky having a data center in India as the premise of this particular presentation, as it is that we want you to use your own local data centers to be DPDP compliant, right? So we what we bring is intelligence down to you locally, and then you use your own tools and local resources. So, but we are also considering a data center just because our expansion has been so massive into India.
All
Oh,
right. We have another question from Mr. Shasidharan. He's asking, how can the Kaspersky chip threat lookup API released in February 2026, if I'm not wrong, be integrated in SOC's automated threat hunting pipeline to correlate multi-source LOCs with mitigate attack map detection rule while minimizing false positive and ensuring real-time response?
This is a great question. I thank you for asking this. You laid it out perfectly for us, and I'll let Arun really handle this. But just so you understand, the MITRE attack scenarios are exactly how we map our threat intelligence inside our threat intelligence portal. So go ahead, Arun, if you want to add anything to that.
yeah, absolutely. Like means one thing is like means reducing the false positive when it comes. Kaspersky is the top three awarded product actually. Like means the engine what is being used, it is with low false positive from A/B test, be it A/B test, SC labs, AV comparatives. Uh, Many of the awards are there. And if you, as a follow-up thing, we will share you the list what it is there, and that reaffirms the quality of our detections. It is with high detection and low false positive. It is already mentioned, and all as Jeremy has mentioned that IP, URL, and domain, everything. Uh, when you're querying for any data feed, like means if you're querying just for only whether it is a malicious or the reputation, then it will be there. But all our detections, when if you want to get into more about the detection, all the detection are mapped with MITRE. So be it as like means where it is being used, I wouldn't say like means only the threat lookup. Uh, it can give you if it is a commodity malware, or if it is, it can also give you if it is related to an APT. If it is commodity malware, then of course there will no tagging for MITRE. But if it isn't related to APT, then what exactly it does, which level when it does, and what are the starting from the initial infiltration to data exfiltration, where exactly it works, and what are the steps? All the tags will be there with MITRE mapping.
Yeah, I think we should sit down with you and show
Yeah,
you the
definitely.
API actual like the JSON code, and you can see how it maps. So it's a great question because the threat lookup is probably our most popular component, and the APIs for it map really well into almost any SOC's automated threat hunting pipeline, right? So it really depends on your particular other tool sets. But I mean, Kaspersky is well known for building security operation centers for entire governments, customers. This is like a specialty for us. So we'd be happy to sit down with you and show you how it would map in your particular instance. But the fact that it's API driven and JSON formatted, along with things like sticks and taxi, we have all those not protocols, but those types of formatting developed, right? So, and very robustly.
Okay, so here we go. We have Mr. Avinash. He has written that He's a Senior Director, ABP Data Tech and AI at Genpact. I want to inquire about AI assisted assessment being offered by Kaspersky, easily plug and play, ready to integrate with both prediction and prescription. That's what he has written. And
Yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
he has written, are these solution enterprise grade? We have few requirements where we want solution to be deployed in cloud vendors for choice, be native apps or last modes in the VMS or VM cluster and encrypted encryptions.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I don't have a visual on that question to kind of refer back to it as we talk. But I mean, the easy answer is yes, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of our bread and butter. Um, everything we do is enterprise grade. Like I should say that from the beginning. So you might think of Kaspersky as a consumer company, and we absolutely have our consumer business, and it's fantastic and still going strong globally. But from an enterprise side, that's really become the bread and butter of Kaspersky as far as revenue contribution, because it's such a big requirement these days, and the threat intelligence and our software is so well regarded globally in the cybersecurity community. So it's definitely like deployable kind of for cloud vendors, IaaS, the infrastructure as a service models or VMs or VM clusters. All of that is possible. So I don't, Arun, would you want to add anything to
Mhm.
that or?
Uh, Nothing like means you have covered, but yeah, means just to reassure, like means when it comes to cloud or IaaS, like means there are multiple solutions are there, like means where it can be integrated. Of course, scan engine is one part. Then Jeremy was also mentioning about container security, where it can integrate into the CI/CD pipelines, starting from the registry to the vulnerability side of it, and also the configuration compliances also. Those things also can be done, and also it gives you a runtime protection. So when it comes to instances and container, or there are different products are there. Maybe we will set one on one where we can uh, give you more details on that, because we are running short of time. But point taken, we have it is to re-emphasize, Kaspersky have multiple products and solution and offerings uh, in enterprise life.
And they work together as a solution,
Yeah.
container security from the registry through to the final build, scan engine at the final build to scan the final build before it goes live, right? Like, so everything's kind of designed to be a piece of the story of a bigger solution.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, all right. We have next question from Mr. Rauf Jamal. Jamal, he has written, with your SDK and APIs, how do you ensure consistent policy reinforcement across custom implementations? Do you provide reference architecture for regulated industries like BFSI? If client build customer workflows using your SDK, how do you ensure DPDP compliance is not broken at the integration level?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So a couple of things there. Let me kind of work it backwards, but from a DPDP perspective, our SDK lives inside your application. And really, this also talks to the first part of your question about kind of reference architectures and how does this work. The SDK and its componentry, you install it, you surface the functionality of it into your own application. So if your own application's using a database somewhere or is recording personally identifiable information, our SDK is just an engine that works inside that framework, right? And we do have reference frameworks and can walk you through all of that. We have code samples to show you, but to ensure that everything's kind of achieving the effect that you're desiring. But yeah, most of that stuff's pretty standard fare for the SDK, right? It's really looking at malicious apps. It's looking at bad Wi-Fi hotspots. It's looking at jailbroken devices. There's a number of components that it's doing, and we can walk you through all of that and how to surface it. And then from a compliance perspective, since it's just an SDK, it's inherently compliant because there's no component of it that's necessarily outside of India. Sorry.
Uh, No worries. Like means I think that the
Yeah.
next question.
Do you want me to? Yeah. So the next question is again from Mr. Roth. He is asking, are your Shorikata, correct me if I'm wrong, rules purely signature based or context aware with protocol or state validation?
Okay, let me take that.
Thanks, Arun.
Yes, Surikata rules, yes, it is signature based, but when we say it is signature based, it is not just the signature, but also the signatures is being written by our specialists, like means we have teams actually, like means good team is there, great team is there, so whichever, and what we see across the globe, so those things also goes into the Surikata signatures. And the uh, the delivery time, the refresh time is every 1 hour we refresh this, and the number of the signatures, I think that was also a question somewhere I read. Okay, so the number of the signatures is also for Surikata, it is somewhere around approximately 8,000 signatures.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of between 4 and 8,000. It really just depends. I mean, it's not again, it's not about the size of your database. It's about the
Is the
fidelity of it.
fidelity.
And so
Yeah.
we're always refining that. And you can take subsets of that and use it per your device's requirements.
Okay. So moving on to the next question is from Mr. Prakash. What is the false positive and false negative rate with regards to IPS, and what are the total number of signatures supported?
Well, this
Okay.
is almost the exact same question. It's between
Yeah.
4 and 8,000 signatures, but the fidelity is extremely high. So for us, when we look at false positive rate, we're going for zero false
Yeah.
positives, right? That's our achievement, right? Is so we're not, we would be unsatisfied if it wasn't.
So
Okay.
it is more like it is a finished threat intelligence. So take it and consume it. You don't have to fine tune it in from a threat intelligence perspective. It is zero false positive, like almost.
Okay. With this, we end the Q&A segment, and I just want to read. Mr. Avinash has written. Thanks, Jeremy Arun, for answering. We'll connect to get the catalog details. So yeah,
Yeah, thank
and
you, Nash. Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank
Definitely
you.
look forward to that.
so okay. So now we have our last segment where we are going to declare the winners of poll and Q&A. Okay, Mr. Sashidharan has come up with one last question for him. Is like, what? Just a second. Okay. One last question. What architectural and intelligence driven differences enable Kaspersky to outperform other security vendor in detecting zero-day phishing attack, and how do these differences impact real world detection, latency, and false positive rates?
So that's a very big question, but it's a great question, of course. And phishing's been kind of the theme throughout our session today. But how does Kaspersky even gather data? We have so much of a storyline about this, but it starts with having 400 million endpoints around the globe collecting data, right? And then it goes into things like spam traps and membership subscriptions to open source feeds and things like that. So there's just a plethora of ways that we get threat intelligence. We have our own research team. And so everything we have is extremely unique often. And so, from our phishing detection to our IPS signatures or Suricata rules to our antivirus signatures, right? To even our URL databases in countries as specific as China or Japan, where or even Korea. There's so much collection methodology and research and refinement that goes into this. So again, it's never about the size of that data set. It's about the daily cleansing of it and ensuring its fidelity. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Arun. I know you talk about that
Just
every day. So
so just to give an perspective, like means Kaspersky every single day we detect 500,000 new malicious samples every
Mhm.
single day. So that is a magnitude of like means what we do the detection across the globe.
Yeah, yeah, that's new too, not repeated
New,
ones, but
new
that's our
samples.
new amount. Yeah, yeah. So I think it kind of all speaks to that, and that's how. And then our products are all designed to run that super fast, right? And so that's kind of where the speed and latency and those kind of parts of that question come in. Is we've optimized all our software to run that. But we've also created those feeds in such a way and formatted them in things like Sticks and Taxi that you can ingest them into your products and services and run them super fast as well, right? So they're like I showed with that Taiwanese firewall vendor, they're running our IPS signature set because it's fast, because it's high fidelity, right? So that's sort of a piece of it. And then our phishing stuff is really a big piece of our story. It's inside our SDK. The phishing stream is one of the streams of intelligence that the SDK gets. It's one of the streams that the mobile SDK gets. So phishing is just a tremendous part of everything we do. And so I saw that as kind of a common theme here and should highlight that it runs throughout every single product that we have.
Okay. We have two more questions. I know we are running late of time, but we do you want to take these two questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're open. Well, yeah, I mean, other than me coughing all over everything, we're open. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Mr. Prakash has a question. What is the readiness of Kaspersky for quantum, and how do you plan to protect stored telemetry and historical data from harvest now, decrypt later quantum threats?
That is a great question. I hadn't I was waiting for an AI or a quantum question, right? And so look, harvest now and inspect later, there's not a lot you can do about that. If someone's harvesting your data, that's a problem. But what I will say is this, is that the highest level of encryption that exists today, even when we do finally get to a level where quantum can break that, it's quite a ways off. And so, I would say, while everyone's thinking about how to do quantum encryption and how to ensure things are quantum proof, our highest, like, it's so theoretical right now if you're using military grade encryption standards, that it's still, not something that we're seeing immediately. Now, that said, AI and the compute that's required to do it is advancing compute capabilities massively, right? So we might not even need quantum computers to break today's encryption at some point. So a lot there, but Kaspersky has all kinds of products to help you secure your data. But I think things like making sure your data is not being harvested really is a key component of your own architecture. I don't know. Do you want to add anything to that, Arun? Or
Not exactly means you have covered, but I'll do one thing. Like means I'm sending like means there was a pretty good article written by our great team. So and it is public and it is open also. So I have mentioned that in chat. So if you want to have a look on quantum computing, what is our take? You're please welcome to do that. It's there in the chat.
thanks, Arun. Perfect. Yeah.
One last question from Mr. Kailash. Can AI generate deepfake phishing attacks?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely, Kalash. That's exactly what we're seeing is we went from people creating phishing attacks that were like so old school with spelling errors. Hey, I'm a Nigerian prince, and you need to send me money to my bank. Right, those days are gone. Right, now you get these perfectly eloquently written threats in any language globally. Doesn't English? Forget about it. It's every language. So AI, that's what the new problem is, right? You're getting deep fakes, you're getting AI generated audio that could be someone you know. So yeah, it's everything becomes a game of trust but verify, right? And so just being able to have things like multi-factor authentication and stuff, these are the ways that we see the future of this happening. And of course, we're continuing to always monitor these and flag them still as phishing and all these things. Even if they're generated by AI or not, we're still out there every day flagging them and trying to block them, right? And we're using AI on our side to inventory it all since the volume of it's gotten so massive.
Okay. So yeah, okay. So from now we'll end this session and we'll declare the winners. So now the winners for the poll one, Mr. Vinay Garimala. Are you there, sir? Mr. Vinay, please type in yes in the chat box. Okay. I think we have not received his response. So the second winner for poll 2 is Mr. Ashish Seth. Yes. And the third winner from the poll is Mr. Satish Kumar. And the fourth winner is Mr. Suresh Chandalwada is the fourth winner. So I'll what we'll do after this session, we'll send the coupons to you in 3 4 days time. We'll send the email with the vouchers to on your email IDs. And for the Q&A, we have Mr. Rauf Jamal. Congratulations, sir.
Awesome. Thank you. Congratulations to all our winners. Yeah, and thank you for attending. We
Congratulations,
really
everyone.
appreciate it.
So, as we come to the end of today's session, here are quick reflections. Cybersecurity is no longer just a layer of protection, it is a strategic enabler for growth, differentiation, and long term value creation. A heartfelt thank you to our speaker, Mr. Jeremy Carlson and Mr. Arun Ghantiat, for sharing their expertise and perspectives. And thank you all, our attendees, for being such an enthusiastic and engaged audience. Before we sign off, don't forget to download 60 IT360 Connect app using the link shared in the chat to stay connected with our upcoming event and opportunity. This is Bhavna signing off on behalf of India IT360. Also, please spare a minute to share your thoughts in our survey that will be shown on your windows after I end the meeting. So, thank you once again and have a great day ahead. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.